All right, we have a new budget multi-tool to talk about today, and this is going to be a big one. A lot of times when budget multi-tools come out, they don't feel like a direct shot across the bow to a specific model or a specific brand. I think this one is definitely coming to compete. Let's go ahead and get started. Okay, so before we get started, let me say a couple things. First of all, Roxon did not send me any of their tools. In fact, none of the tools that I've gotten from Roxon have been sent to me. I bought them all myself. So that includes the Phantom, the one we're going to talk about today, which is the Flash, as well as the M2. Now, I covered the Phantom a little while back and really enjoyed it. And I like that it also didn't really compete with anything else, as it had interchangeable blades and a couple of unique features that I don't really see elsewhere. The M2, yeah, this was a little bit of a disappointment. It's in a weird size range, and it doesn't stack up favorably to the PowerPint, but still, I like that they're continuing to develop in that space. There aren't many people doing that. This tool, on the other hand, I've known about for a long time. They had a Kickstarter I never got into. I found out later after it had ended, and I didn't know what was going on with it. I thought they were just finished, that they weren't going to be making it, but it is here. And so I've known of the tool set and that it exists, just it's now showing up on Amazon. And the price for this tool is $30. That is an important context before we go forward. We are going to be comparing a $30 budget multi-tool to a $140 multi-tool. Okay, yes, this went up from 120 to 140 if you didn't know. 140 versus 30. That's important. So, a couple things to talk about here. Let's start on the back, actually. The materials. Both Nextool and Roxon do a really good job being transparent about their materials. They have a 5CR15 MOB blade, 440A cutters, and I think these are distributed among different components in the multi-tool. Also, I've noticed the 10-year warranty. I have heard of 2 individuals who have told me that they have had positive experiences with this warranty. That's not a big sample size, but it is good to hear that they are able to actually contact someone. So, very cool. And let's see, is there contact information? There is. Very cool. Right there. And a telephone number. Now, let's pull out this tool. Starting with the fact that you do get a sheath with this, and the sheath actually can work both horizontal carry as well as vertical carry. I love that they do this. This was also true with the Phantom, and this is just a smaller, thinner version of that sheath, basically. So well done, and I like that it is nice and tight across the back, which means that it's not going to move around that much on your belt. So cool, like that so far. Let's get to the tool itself. So the weight on this thing, and I think it says it here, is 236 grams, and that comes out to, I think, hold on. I can't do the conversion in my head. All right, we're in grams. There we go. 8.5, 8.5 ounces. So that compares to the 7.6 ounces of the Leatherman Signal. Now, one thing of note is that the Leatherman Signal, one of the things I like about it is that it's been skeletonized pretty much everywhere you can possibly imagine. Even on the inside, there's as many places to reduce weight as possible. So you look at all those cutouts in there. So if they did add some cutouts across all of the flat surfaces, down under here, over here, here, they could probably reduce the weight significantly on this tool. So that's something they could definitely do, and I highly would recommend to them. But still, 8.5 ounces is sort of in that same Leatherman wave weight. So that's about 8.6. So definitely a little bit in the Signal's favor so far. Now, in addition to getting the sheath, you're going to get something else in the box. And this is something I wish more companies would do, is that it actually comes with a spare set of cutters. And that's great, because I am actually not sure where you would buy these separately. So having a spare set is very useful. Just make sure that you do not lose them, because, yeah, you don't want to do that. All right, let's get into some comparisons, starting with the blade. Now, I actually am a huge fan of the Signal blade. I really am. And it's one of the few partially serrated blades that I enjoy, in large part because it has a good draw cutting capability. And it's got a really stout blade too. And that is also going to be true from the Roxon, except that it's a lot taller. So you're going to get a little bit more sliciness, and thankfully is not partially serrated. I don't hate this, but I also would prefer it not be partially serrated. That's just my personal opinion. The other thing is, let's talk about sharpness. Reminder that I did not buy these. I'm sorry, I did not get them sent to me by Roxon. I purchased them myself. And it's got a pretty decent sharpness. I wouldn't say it's the sharpest thing I've ever unboxed, but it's not bad. Not the most even grind, but then again, I mean, come on. We can't talk about grinds and not point out the fact that Leatherman is, well known for doing really crappy grinds. I mean, this is a discontinued tool in S30V. Just take a look at this butcher job. I've never used this knife, by the way. This is literally the way it came. Okay? All right. Now, I don't usually have an issue with the Signal, to be fair. And so this one has actually been well-loved, been used. So I can't really compare the edges as we sit. But so far, coming out of the box, it's pretty good. And it's worth noting that these two blades are made of the same basic combination of materials. It's basically the same thing, 420HC or 5CR 15 MOV. They're both about the same steel. They achieve the same hardness and so on. So assuming equal heat treatment, which is a big assumption, by the way, that's a big assumption, then they're going to have similar performance. Okay? Now, one thing I did miss. 90-degree spine on here. That's going to be very helpful because this is an outdoorsman's tool, and you might need to make tinder, so you need to scrape some wood, some birch bark, whatever it is, and you get that fine powdered material that's easy to burn, so that's useful. There's also a 90-degree spine on the saw of the Signal, but not on the blade. Not really an issue per se, as long as there's at least one 90-degree spine. And speaking of saws, let's go ahead and pull these out. Both saws from both tools are about 65 millimeters in length. The important thing, we don't really usually measure the teeth on these tools. Most people don't care. But the important thing you need to know is that the wave saw, as well as the saw for this Roxon, are identical in total cutting length. They are not, however, the same in teeth size. So the Roxon has much bigger teeth, and these are actually really sharp. I'm actually pretty impressed. I tend to prefer the slightly smaller teeth. I think they're a little bit easier to get started. They don't rip as much, but they're also a little slower. So there's a give and take here. I wouldn't say one is better than the other. And of course, both have 90-degree spines on the inside and the outside. All right. So far, so good. Now, obviously, the Signal has a hammering end. People have very mixed opinions about this. I actually tend to find it pretty useful. And it has, of course, an outside bottle opener and hex hole that I've actually shown how you can use this to develop a lot of torque. You put a piece of paracord in there. It'll actually create a ability to retain the bit. And yeah, that's really good. Not here, but once again, we're making a pretty illogical comparison. All right, let's get to the pliers. This has the same plier that we have seen in the Phantom, and that's actually a nice size plier, okay? Very, very similar, in fact, to the one you can find on the Wave, or in this case, the Signal. But this one is spring-loaded, and this one is not. And it works great right out of the box. No issues. If I squeeze it, it doesn't lock up. So all in all, I'm pretty happy with it, and there's no play side to side. I'm really happy with that as well. Yeah, no complaints whatsoever. Really well done by Roxon. Now, also on the outside, let's talk about one of my favorite things about this tool. All their tools are locking, for the most part, except the plier, which is not locking in any of these. But this is the best thing. Check this out. If I press up, I actually open up all three of the smaller implements here, and I can then select them, pick one, open it up. Like, let's say I want to talk about this first one, and it is now locked in place. To unlock, I simply press backwards, and now it unlocks. That's the same thing from the Phantom, and I love this system so much. Sorry, I yelled. Didn't mean to yell. Same thing is true with the Phantom. I love that it was one-handable. Yeah, really, really well done. Now the Phantom has 4 tools and had a full 3-dimensional Phillips, so a little bit better, but there's not as much space here. And they did make the tools a little bit more robust. So this Phillips, actually okay. For a 2-dimensional Phillips, not bad. No matter who makes them, though, it's going to have limited use. It's really more for an emergency. I can imagine using it to tighten something if you're in the field, but generally speaking, you know, it's a 2-dimensional Phillips. That is also the same thing, by the way, with the Leathermans. Like, these have very limited usage, and frankly, from my experience, the Leatherman bits are incredibly soft, and once you break them or lose one, they become relatively useless. And the thing is, with the bit system, the bit driver, you still don't have the length to get into recessed areas. This will actually do that, so there is an advantage to that as well. Last thing here we have is a can opener, bottle opener combo. I don't know. I really do need to try this, but it does, you know, they actually did add a sharpened edge, so it probably will work just fine. I would imagine it's just going to take a lot of time, but usually they don't mess this up, and actually looks like they have the right geometry. Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, right hand designed, but this is the one that, by the way, you rock forward, similar to the one you will find in any Victorinox. Okay, are we at the end? Nope. There's one more big thing here that we need to talk about. Now, I have found it pretty difficult to get these out, I'm not gonna lie. What I have had to do is push it out from the inside. There's an exposed area. Now you can see the detent for this whistle is along the side. These kind of fall into these indentations. Now, part of that is I just was at the pool, so my fingernails are really soft. But you might not have this issue, you know. Anyway, whistle and ferrocerium combo. So check this out. You unscrew that. There's your ferrocerium rod. You turn it around, screw it back in like so. And there you go. And now you have an actual handle. Now, this is so much better than the way the Signal does it. I'm actually not a big fan of the way this has been integrated. Notice that you only get about, well, a very, very, very small amount before you actually start hitting the plastic with the strikes. And also, as you're running off the edge, you kind of get stopped by this plastic. So you can actually damage this very easily if you're not being careful. It's mostly for an emergency, not something you would use regularly. Whereas this is not that dissimilar from a much larger ferrocerium rod. So I like that. The only well, I mean, it's not really complaint, is I would love to see these being sold, the whole thing, as a separate component, like a pair. If they can add that to the listing, that would be wonderful, because this is a great compact like tool. I would put this in a ton of little kits. Having that whistle, and yeah, this whistle is actually quite a bit louder than that one. I was really quite surprised. So well done from Roxon, both on the whistle and the ferrocerium rod. A lot more can be used here, and if they could just sell this separately, I would love to be able to purchase a few more. Oh, sorry. Let's put that away for now and get that stuck back in. So it's pretty straightforward. You just drop it right in, push down, and it clicks in. Good to go. Okay. I tried to fly through that as quickly as I could. If you think this comparison is ridiculous, that's because it is. It is absolutely insane to compare a $30 tool to a $140 tool. You can buy 4 of these and still have enough money to go have breakfast with a nice cup of coffee and enjoy it at your local breakfast place. We are getting dangerously close to the point where companies like Nextool and Roxon are just a couple of tweaks away from being genuinely competitive. I can't speak for consistency because this is the first one I have, but people have told me they've been pretty happy with both Roxon and Nextool. There's certain things that they have to improve on, but based on my experience with Leatherman over the last couple of years, it seems like every third or fourth multi-tool I get, and I've bought about 25 of them, has major issues, usually with pliers. But it's consistent no matter what company you go with that isn't called Victorinox, which I've never had a single issue with them, nor have I even heard of one. This is really impressive to me. And actually, I could not include this on any budget list based on what I'm seeing. The ability to have a spare set of cutters, the fact that it has replaceable cutters, it comes with a good sheath, it has a pocket clip, so, and by the way, this retains incredibly well. It's very strong. So that is really, really nice. And it's a well thought out, complete tool set for the outdoors, which is what it was designed to do. And it all locks and is all one-handed. I'm really impressed. And it's just, I just want to say, if anyone from these companies, the big four, mostly the big, the three, not Victorinox, they don't have to worry about anything, but Leatherman, Gerber, and SOG, you better, improve, is all I'm saying, because these guys are catching up awfully quick. The big thing that these companies have to do to be competitive right off the bat is start releasing it with 5CR base across all of their various different models, not using lower quality steels like the 3 and the 2CR. If they do that and they can keep the price under 50, it could be very problematic. This tool is designed well. It is. It doesn't have too much. It has exactly what I would want if I'm kind of looking for maybe a tool that I would give to someone going to the outdoors, maybe. I don't actually carry the Signal. Funny enough, this is kind of a side note, but the Signal is definitely not the tool I would take into the woods. It's not. It's not a good woodsman tool. I know that sounds crazy. It's a good survival tool, which is AKA you're not expecting to be in a situation and all of a sudden you are in one. But if I have time and the ability to prep, this is absolutely not the multi-tool I would take. I would take either the Super Tool 300 with a sheath and all of the necessary add-ons on the sides, or I would take the Victorinox Swiss Tool, the Swiss Tool X. Those are the two I would take. Or maybe the Leatherman Free P4. Those are the three that I would consider. I think they've done a phenomenal job with this Roxon Flash. $30, spare cutters, sheath, pocket clip, all included. Yeah, this more so than the Phantom, I think is probably the best thing Roxon has made thus far. I would love to see this exact same thing, except that we take out the reamer awl for maybe a reasonable flathead, something along those lines, or maybe do like what they did with this, and get a full 3-dimensional Phillips, right? Like they did with this, and then have a flathead next to it, like this. Not a chisel. This is a chisel, but do that, right? And then a scissor instead of the saw, like having a version that is more EDC centric, and certainly having more cutouts for weight savings. I think if they do that, I think they have another winner on top of this one. But really, really good offering from Roxon. I hope they do more like it. And please keep up with the steels. 8CRs, 5CRs at the minimum. And then if you really want to impress, how about something crazy like, I don't know, like a 12CR 27 would be amazing as a blade steel, or I don't know, you name it. Just be creative with that. I think that's where you can really kind of surprise people and show up with tools that are at the $60 price point with much better materials. Anyway, that's it. I know I've already rambled on enough. As always, I appreciate your time, and we'll talk again soon.